Hello, everybody, and good morning. Mr. Fail here, wrapping up this last stretch all the way to summer. First, dad joke. I'm gonna have fun telling this one. A panda walks into a bar and says to the bartender, "I'll have a scotch and a Coke. Thank you." Sure thing, the bartender replies and asks, "But what's with the big paws?" Panda holds up his hands and says, "I was born with them." It took me a while to find a good one. I thought that was a good one. All right, here we go. Sixth Commandment. Hope you're excited. It'll definitely keep your attention. Waiting for this to pop up. Here we go. You shall not commit adultery. That is the sixth commandment. Now, under that, at the top here, you see Jesus' quote. You have heard that you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So I think I gave you all that passage earlier this year. There is so much to this sixth commandment. When Jesus says, don't commit adultery, aka don't have sex with somebody that's not your spouse, he's saying a lot with that. He's basically saying sex is for marriage. Sex is, only for that person. Why? And there will be logical implications as to why. And so the sixth commandment, because of this, covers a lot. Um, a lot of it we've already talked about this year. We talked about contraception. We talked about adultery itself. We talked about fornication, which is sex outside of marriage. So I kind of use this at the end of the year, sixth commandment. It's a sexual commandment. Talk about some areas of sexuality and marriage that we haven't talked about yet. This is kind of like the miscellaneous addendum. So as you can imagine, there's going to be some things that are touchy, some things that y'all are going to be sensitive to, some things you may not agree with. It doesn't. It's okay. You're entitled to that. But I'm going to touch on a few things that I think you should know, think that you should think about, think you should be aware about, pertaining to sexual morality, so that you can better save sex for marriage, so that when you are married, you can have sex the right way and you be closer to God on the process. All right. Now, make sure you complete the ed puzzle for this lesson. There are two ed puzzles, one for men, one for women. Okay? You don't need to do two. You can do two. You can do two. I actually recommend it. Guys, if you watch the lady one, she's very attractive, and two, you're going to see a beautiful Catholic woman speaking and recognizing her dignity. Girls, if you watch the guy one and take those questions as bonus brownie points, you're gonna see and maybe be more aware of how men can be immodest and to not fall into those traps too. So there's value in doing two. I'm only making one mandatory. I want to give y'all space to go above and beyond so you can be better Christians. All right, so here goes nothing. And by nothing, I mean here goes the sixth commandment. Modesty. We never really talked about this. What about dress? You know, person's dress says something about themselves. A person's dress can lead people to think sexual thoughts. So, if dress and attitude and demeanor and the way a person carries oneself leads to lustful thoughts in the heart, which Jesus says are adultery, then we got to consider it. We got to consider how we're talking. We got to consider how we're moving. We got to consider how we're dressing and all the above, how we interact with each other. All right. We need modesty. What is modesty? Good question. It is an integral part of temperance, right? So we talked about temperance. Temperance is moderation. Temperance is knowing the goodness of something and using it in the right way. I know my body is good. I know it's an integral part of me, but I'm not going to use it so that people only see me as a body, right? That's so hopefully you see how modesty falls under temperance, recognizing a goodness but not overdoing it. Like if you're temperate with food, you enjoy proper food, but not too much. Modesty protects the intimate center of the person. It means refusing to unveil what should remain hidden. It is ordered to chastity and whose sensitivity it bears witness. It guides how one looks at others and behaves towards them in conformity with the dignity of persons and their solidarity. First, well, I already said the first thing, it's a sub virtue of temperance. Modesty is about protection. When you act modestly, you are protecting yourself from perhaps committing sins yourself. You're protecting yourself from having others see you in an artificial, less than human, less than dignified way. So modesty is about protecting myself because I am good. I am so good that not everybody deserves to see all of me. I am so good that I want to show people the way I dress, the way I talk, the way I carry myself. I want people to see my true value and dignity. That's in the bottom line. Okay? Conformity with the dignity of persons. The way you dress at a party, the way you dress anywhere, it's got to reflect I'm a child of God. And that is what has got to enrapture all of you because that's who you are. Once again, modesty protects the mystery of persons and their love. It encourages patience and moderation in loving relationships. So we're not going to have sex yet. I don't want you to think sexual thoughts. We're going to practice modesty. You see how this is related to temperance and, of course, chastity. It requires that the conditions for the definitive giving and commitment of man and woman to one another be fulfilled. Okay, so there's certain conditions upon which we will get married, upon we will have sex, and that means that in the meantime, you respect me and you see me as a person. So I'm speaking right here about modesty within relationships, right? All right. That's the very purpose of modesty. The catechism, and I think there's other paragraphs in the catechism about modesty, but the emphasis is protection and dignity. Protecting your dignity, not putting yourself out there as an object of pleasure, but as a subject and as a human person. That's what it's all about, you know. And this is why Turling's Catholic High School has guidelines, yes, mostly for women, about how to dress for homecoming, how to dress for prom, which we unfortunately will not have to wrestle with this year. Um, but this is when Toronto's Catholic says, girls, your skirts, your dresses have to be this long, they have to be this high. What they're saying is, we know that men, the boys, are going to be prone to looking at you in a certain way, and we don't want them to do that. So we're going to draw a certain line that we expect you to be in conformity with. Why? Because this is a Christian value. So Trinity Catholic, while you may disagree with it, they have a right to do so. They have a right to say that as a Catholic function, we need to have these things in mind. All right. This is the second, well, really third, and last slide of today. It's complicated. All right. Every year I teach about this. Kids go to the lunch table and they talk about it, and sometimes they twist my words, sometimes they flat out think it's stupid. Can I wear this? Well, what about a bikini? Like, I'm comfortable in a bikini, not Mr. Pale. I'm saying female students say, oh, I'm comfortable in a bikini, Mr. Pale. A guy less than me, that's his problem. Well, it's going to be your problem when he's taking you out on a date and you say yes and he's playing it real smooth, like that's not his motivation. It could be your problem, it may not be your problem, but it's just complicated. It's complicated. I'm not going to say bikinis are always wrong or bikinis are never good. But there's certain rules that you have to take into account. And I'll go through them for you to consider after I read this catechism paragraph. The forms taken by modesty vary from one culture to another. Everywhere, however, in every culture, modesty exists as an intuition of the spiritual dignity proper to man. It is born with the awakening consciousness of being a subject person. Teaching modesty to adolescents means awakening in them respect for the human person, which of course is what I'm teaching right now. Respect yourselves, respect other people, have decency and dignity in your talk and your dress. So, can we wear this? Can we wear that? Can a guy just take his shirt off on a hot summer day? There's factors between what you're doing, who you're with, how prone they are to think things. Um, and you have to get real with yourself. Modesty uh, won't be followed by you learning all the rules and the facts. You have to just ask yourself, based on the people I know, how a lot of what they think, how they feel, what the guys or girls around you are looking for. Am I carrying myself in a way that points to God, that points to my dignity, Um, and so I'm not going to teach anything specific on this about what you can and cannot wear. There's more food for thought in the ed puzzles. But you have to ask this question. You can't just wear what everybody else wears if you're a Christian. You can't just wear whatever's comfortable. Being comfortable is great. Mr. Perry's wearing the super comfortable sports leader t-shirt. It's great. Um, But if this sports leader T-shirt causes somebody else to sin, or if it leads me to sin, then I've got to reconsider it. Okay, so let me know if this is really causing you to sin. That was said sarcastically. Okay, comfort falls subject to dignity and decency. Comfort comes second, is what I meant to say. All right, couple things to think about: who you're with, where you are, what you're doing, and your dress and your attitude could lead to. And of course, talk all these things out with Jesus in there. Make sure you do those ed puzzles. We're going to talk more about the sixth commandment tomorrow. Hope you have something to think about, pray about, love God about. From Burbridge, Louisiana, on behalf of Children's Catholic High School, this is Mr. John Paoletti. God bless.